Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Thursday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckus, coming to you live today on your lunch break with my guy, Drew Gann, a.k.a. Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck, it's great to see you today. You know, if you tuned into our show on Tuesday and watched us yell at each other for the better part of 10 minutes, you might think these guys are never going to talk again. And all we've done is laugh and cut up since then. So I'm grateful to have you here, even though we yelled at each other in the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, listen, relationships are built upon honesty, and if I can't tell you you're an idiot and us just be friends afterwards, then we couldn't be doing this together. So,
and I appreciate you being willing to express your naivety in front of us and all of our friends here on air, thinking that it couldn't possibly rig the NBA draft. But I am grateful you're here, man. How's things going in North Mississippi? You good?
It's good. It's good. I had an eventful morning. One of my favorite things that my kids' school does every year at the end of the year is they do what's called donuts with grown-ups. And so
nice.
like each grade, the kids get to bring their parents and have donuts in the cafeteria. And so I had donuts with Chloe this morning. I got to go tomorrow to eat donuts with Braxton. And then Haley's class today had their fun field day, you know, that they do at the end of the year. And so I just swung over to the daycare across the street, brought the babies over and let them run with Haley for a little bit. And I mean, I didn't get a lot done today, but I'll be really productive this afternoon.
There you go, man. There's nothing quite like small town living. We both are products of small town in Northeast Mississippi, and just being able to do stuff like that. I know Haley appreciated, the kiddos appreciated that, and that makes for quite the good Thursday morning, even if it makes for a grind on Thursday afternoon.
it's going to be worth it to stay a little late today. I'll put it to you that way. So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we won't waste any more of your time. We'll get right into it.
Yeah, so it's Thursday. On our Thursdays, we do a segment we like to call Real versus Counterfeit here on the Bluff City Media YouTube page. Thanks for checking us out. King Meeks is already in the comments over here. He's about to do a 13-hour shift, it seems like. So God bless you, King Meeks. Glad that hopefully we kickstart this day off for you in a good way. But if you're watching on X.com, I invite you to come on over to YouTube, hop in the comments. We got a lot of people hanging out with us. Like us, subscribe us, hit the bell so that you get notified anytime Bluff City Media has a show that goes live. I promise you won't miss out. But it's Thursday, and so Rusty's got some takes. I don't think they're basketball related. He's got some takes. He's going to lob them up to me, and I'm going to say whether that take is real or whether it's counterfeit.
We got some great news, in my opinion, this week, where after years and years of Pete Rose lobbying to get in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the worst commissioner in all of professional sports, Rob Manfred, finally lifted the lifetime ban on, and I guess eternal ban on Pete Rose getting into Cooperstown. Not only that, but he lifted the ban for one Shoeless Joe Jackson. I am old, but not old enough to remember watching Shoeless Joe from the early 1900s in the infamous Black Sox and betting on baseball, right? Yeah, I think it was in 20s, late teens, early 20s. But both of those players are now eligible for induction into the Hall of Fame. So, Drew, I'm going to start there. Real versus counterfeit. Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson belong in the Hall of Fame. Brought to you by FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever, MGM Grand, wherever you bet on sports.
But Bubba's Cash Hall in Kasu, whatever it is, like
out of the Lazy Ellen Ramsey.
So listen, this one, it's actually a little harder for me to talk about the steroids. I mean, I'll talk about the gambling than the steroids for me. Like, steroids was an era, and gambling on games like Pete Rose did, I've always just kind of felt like that's a little dirtier because you can, like, literally change the outcome of games, and he was the coach.
On that, so Pete Rose only bet on himself to win. He never bet on himself to lose through the games. That's what got the Black Sox in trouble. The Black Sox were the ones that were betting against themselves and throwing the games in the 1920s.
Right. Obviously different. You know, it kind of like the Jonte Porter. You know, he was telling folks to take the under on his stat. Like, obviously, that's going to get you a lifetime ban. That's throwing games. And so you could talk semantics and whatnot. I think that Pete Rose does need to get in because of just the stats that he has as a player. Like, he is the all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball. You've got to have him in the Hall of Fame. And if you've got – I've always been a fan of the asterisks. Like, if you've got to put an asterisk, put an asterisk. But you've got to have the all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball be in Cooperstown. You just have to. Yeah. And Shoeless Joe Jackson, the story is very cloudy. Obviously, he took part in the Black Sox scandal that was point shaving. He was the best player on that team. He played left field with no shoes on. And so he is the most famous one. But there's plenty of stories out there that said, like, the dude was an idiot. Like, he couldn't read. Yeah. And so he got swept up in this because he was the best player on a team that was actively throwing games. And so how much we've lost to history at this point, how much he was actually involved or not involved. But ultimately, Pete Rose, I believe, has to get in. So if you're going to put Pete Rose in, you've got to bring in that Black Sox, the best player on that Black Sox team being Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Absolutely, no doubt, man. And King Meeks is right. I don't know why they waited till after Pete Rose passed. It's kind of a bummer because he fought for his whole life and made retributions, even after it was legalized to bet on baseball across most of our 50 states. Right. And I hate that that's how it ended up, but at least in memoriam, he'll be able to get in for his family because, I mean, like Pete Rose is one of the most hard. He played harder than anybody ever to play professional baseball. Like that dude's give a crap factor was way higher than everybody else's. He was a huge part of the big red machine back in the 70s with those Reds teams in the early 80s. And so I'm
Johnny
grateful
Bench,
to see
Joe Morgan. And the thing with that was always, and of course I wasn't old enough to watch Pete Rose either, but you watch the highlights and you could tell he was a guy that had to give 150% to be successful. If he gave the same amount of effort as the most talented Major League Baseball player ever, he would not be known in history as Pete Rose, the all-time hit leader. That dude was an absolute maniac.
And they called him Charlie Hustle for a reason.
It gave off the vibes that, like, he had to do this. You know, the people that are just naturally smart versus the guys who just bust it and have to study and study and study. It's more honorable that those people make a B than the brainiacs who don't try and make an A. Not Johnny Bench. Pete Rose was the guy that did not have the physical tools, but because of just the attitude and the effort that he made himself an all-time great.
Absolutely. And so grateful to see him get in. And so King Meeks asked my next question, Drew. We've talked about the gambling. Now, what about the steroid era? I'm talking Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Rafael Palmeiro, Hell State. Those guys that were a part, that got swept up in that steroid era of the 90s, where we grew up watching baseball, real or counterfeit, those guys belong in the Hall of Fame.
Real. I do. And I kind of hinted at this earlier, but this was an era in baseball in which if you weren't doing steroids, you were not a good baseball player. You know, you just ran through the home run leaders for the whole 21st century. I mean, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro. I mean, these are multiple 600 home run guys. Alex Rodriguez. But then you look at the pitchers.
Oh yeah, Roger Clemens,
Andy Pettit,
Kurt Schilling.
I mean, there were so many players that did it because you had to. You just had to. And yeah, they lied and they shouldn't have done it. But you look around and you're just like, okay, if you're a contemporary of Barry Bonds and you see him, or I guess Mark McGwire was the most obvious one for me. Yeah. You see him playing for the A's, and then the next year, him and Jose Canseco show up at the same time, and they're not string beans anymore. They're power lifters, and they're hitting 60 home runs in the season. Like, you've got to keep up.
Yeah.
And if you're a pitcher, you've got to juice yourself, or else you're going to have a 17 ERA.
I mean, that's
the whole era of baseball. So if you don't let the steroid guys get in, like I said, put an asterisk there. I'm all for the asterisk. If you don't put the steroid guys in, you're going to have a whole class of, 20 years that you don't have any Hall of Famers other than Albert Pujols. the greatest hitter of all time.
Mariano Rivera, Pedro Martinez. That was about it. Otherwise, these guys had to do what they did to keep up. And the people that say, Babe Ruth did it on beer and hot dogs, Babe Ruth would have been the first one in line for steroids had they been available in the 1930s. Like, I miss me with that because, yes, they were talented. Yes, they're great baseball players. Barry Bonds was a 40-40 guy, 40 homers, 40 stolen bases before the steroids. Like, he was a great baseball player. But in order to keep up with the times where everybody else was doing it, you had to do steroids if you were going to be competitive. And PEDs were the name of the game back in the 90s. They did that. ESPN did a great 30 for 30 about the Balco, or was it Balco?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Balco company that was the ones distributing all of it. And just the arms race is what they called it. Literally, the arms race was rampant in the 90s. And so if you were going to be a competitive professional baseball player, you had to get in touch with the guys at Balco to keep up.
Yeah. And so I'm very much a fan of just remembering history. And yes, the baseball in the 90s, I believe, was at its absolute peak, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah.
You've got to inscribe that in history somehow. And I don't care that Aaron Judge hit 63 or 62 or 63 home runs a couple years ago, because I watched McGuire hit 70 and then I watched Barry Bonds hit 73. I don't care about 61. And you could say, well, this is a non-steroid record. Well, I watched somebody hit 73.
Yeah. And it was amazing. It was electric.
Amazing.
We were like, Drew, you remember this? Like, every night I'd be watching the Cubs, or I'm sure you watched the Cardinals. We're watching our teams, and they would cut in with a live feed of Barry Bonds at bat.
Absolutely.
My dad let me stay up past my bedtime for those late first pitch Barry Bonds games on the West Coast, so that I could watch Barry Bonds hit home runs, because he was like, guys, you may never see this again in your lifetime. And so it was a whole era and culture for us. Another
great 30 for 30 is that summer of 98 that they did about the Sosa and Griffey and Mark McGuire three-way race for the home run
62.
crown. Yeah. And it ended up with what? Sosa had 66, 68?
Yeah, 66.
McGuire had 80.
Yeah, 70. Yeah.
I mean,
and then 70. And Griffey had like 58 or 59.
Yeah, he tailed off at the end, but it became a two-man race. But I mean, my goodness.
Man.
Bring back steroids. Rob Manfred, if you know if you want ratings, my man.
Yeah.
Let them juice.
I mean, that's it, man. That's it. All right. That's our real versus counterfeit segment for the week. Every Thursday, you can catch that live here on your lunch break at 12 o'clock. But before we get to our next segment, I've got an announcement. Here at Bluff City Media, we are super excited to partner with Ounce of Hope, a local dispensary here in Memphis. Memphis products, Memphis made right here on the south side of Memphis. Haven't experienced this firsthand. They have 2 locations in Memphis. Haven't experienced those locations firsthand. I can tell you about the first class experience you will have. You're greeted at the front door. They check your ID to make sure everything's cool and above board. And then you can go talk to a bud tender where they can help you find the products that best suit your needs. For me, it's their line of seltzers with flavors like High Lime, Cherry Jane, Berry High. My personal favorite, the Peach Buzz. You've got to check them out. If you're looking for an alcohol alternative or a hangover-free solution to help you relax as a day drinker, a wine enthusiast, whatever that is, Ounce of Hope Seltzers has you covered. Check them out at 5101 Sanderland Avenue, Unit 114, or if you're in the Cooper Young neighborhood, 553 South Cooper Street today, and tell them Rusty Buckets sent you. Welcome back. We've got basketball to get to. We're not just talking baseball today. We're not just talking about tomfoolery and Hall of Fames and all that sort of stuff. Oh my gosh. Welcome, Wayno, with a picture of me from undergrad at a barn party dance at Mississippi State. We hired a square dance caller, and that picture has made an appearance. Holy smokes. That's wild. I think you muted, Uncle Buck. We can't hear you, man.
Sorry. I thought that was a senior showcase picture.
No,
that's Rusty on. That's just Sunday best right there.
That's it. That was when I was at Mississippi State. But that threw me off there. But Drew, we've got basketball to talk about. We've got playoffs going off. We have 2 of the 4 teams that are going to be playing for their conference championship have been solidified. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves have eliminated the Golden State Warriors. That was a sentence I didn't think I would say in 2025. And the New York Knicks are on the verge with the Boston Celtics to face the Indiana Pacers. Like, who knew at the beginning of the year that the Wolves and the Pacers would be the first 2 teams in their conference finals?
I think I could have gotten to the Wolves. Again, I wasn't a big fan at the time of the trade that they made. And so when you're looking at last year's team who made it to the Western Conference Finals, it doesn't seem like a stretch that they can make it again. But I wasn't a big fan of the Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle trade, but it has worked out swimmingly. Julius Randle is somehow just an absolute efficient bucket getter now in the playoffs. So it's just wild. It's just wild. And it's so unfortunate that you're looking at this now, and it happened last year too. There is so much that you think is important about what you need to do to make a deep run in the playoffs. And I said it going into this playoffs in regards to the Grizzlies, and it's been true again. There is nothing more important than just staying healthy. Like, nobody thinks that the Timberwolves knock off the Warriors in 5 if Steph Curry doesn't pull a hammy in game 1, and nobody thinks that that Boston is dead if you don't have Jason Tatum blow his Achilles.
Yeah.
And I mean, sidebar, is Boston actually dead? Because
we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a minute. But Paris made a good point of the Daily Grind this morning. This Golden State series has played right into favor of Julius Randle, because you think about when Randle was at his best at Kentucky and the Knicks there for a while, and his little bit the Lakers, it was in a half court, muddy, get the ball in the paint, just kind of slugfest. If it starts running up and down, if you start running up and down the floor, he's unplayable. He can't keep up. He gets played off the court. But a half court slugfest has been a strength of Julius Randle for a long time, including these playoffs. So if I'm the Timberwolves, for more than just this reason, but I'm praying that it's Denver that comes out of that other game so that I can keep it in a half-court game and continue to get great Julius Randle, because throughout this series, Ant has averaged 28 points, Julius Randle's averaged 26 points, and you got the best of both of your superstars who are, Ant the superstar, Julius Randle apparently a star for this team. And then you get some great filler play from your other guys. McDaniels has been awesome this series. DiVincenzo's hit some big shots. And so, I mean, I don't know why we didn't even at least consider this, with now Minnesota going to the Western Conference Final in back-to-back years, Indiana back-to-back years in the Eastern Conference Finals, but nobody had this on their bingo card for 2025.
Yeah, and I'm not going to hold injuries against Indiana this year like I did last year, because, last year they ran up against in the first round they played the Bucks, Giannis got hurt, and in the second round everything fell apart for the Knicks. They all got hurt. And this year, they played a Cavs team that was, iffy, and Dame tore his ACL in round 1. But it's just becoming fact now, like a talent that is maybe the most desirable talent you can have in the NBA. It's just your ability to weather through just an absolute grind of a postseason schedule. Indiana has been able to do that unscathed.
Yeah.
And that is a talent at this point. Like, you've got to recognize that. And it's something that was always troubling about the Grizzlies this year, that your superstar, John Morant, couldn't play 6 straight games. And I went on and on and on about that. It's like, maybe you get healthy by the season starts, but we've never seen them play 6 straight games together. And so you look at what Indiana's done this year. I don't know what their training regimen looks like. I don't know what their resting versus playing looks like, or how many minutes a game their players played in the regular season, because honestly I didn't watch much Pacers games here. But do that, take that, steal it. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Steal it, take it, and implement that, because of all the Eastern Conference teams, there has been no better beacon of health than the Indiana Pacers.
Well, that, and then Rick Carlisle has been able to get the best out of all of those guys when you need it. Hallie's been big, and then he hasn't been so great. And then Pascal Siakam has been dominant. And then Miles Turner has a big game, shooting those high arcing threes from the time stripe that somehow go in. Then you got role players like TJ McConnell, one of us. And then you get Nimhard and Mather, and these guys are just playing together and they believe. The best thing, a player's best ability is availability. And next to that is confidence, especially in basketball. We talked about that with Zach Edey losing his confidence and Gigi losing their confidence because of injury or coaching malpractice or whatever you want to call it. But this team is confident. They are believing in themselves. That crowd pop in Indiana too it will rival big stadiums, which is the field has such a great place to watch basketball. Indiana's basketball crazy. And then, and Wayno's right. In the score sheet, like on the score table, you're not going to see a lot of stats for Obi Toppin, but Toppin has been clutch defensively. He hits shots when he needs to. And this Indiana team is a ton of fun to watch. If I'm the Knicks or the Celtics, I am nervous because not only is this team believing, but they've had experience because they got there last year and stumbled against Boston. Drew, I would not be surprised if Indiana is a team coming out of the Eastern Conference this year.
No, not at all. Not at all. They play such a fun brand of basketball too. And they just there's no real glaring negatives on the roster. Yeah. Gigi Jackson became Memphis viral a little bit yesterday because, and we're going to talk about it.
We'll get to that here in a minute.
Because he talked about how teams target the weakest defenders. And that's just a main part of their offense. Indiana just doesn't have a weakness right now. And maybe Cleveland just can't exploit it. I don't know. But Cleveland was a buzzsaw all year. The Cavalanche, that's what we talked about all year, how devastating they were. And they got beaten 5. And so when the playoffs have become about being healthy and not having a glaring, obvious weakness that you can attack. Yep.
Yeah. And so, that's it, man. And Indiana checks both of those. Drew, if you're Indiana, would you rather face Boston, who's now depleted but might be better without Jason Tatum, tinfoil hat on? That's not true. Or do you want to face the Knicks, who come in playing the same 5 dudes 40 minutes every night? Who pick your poison there? Who would you rather play?
That's a good question. I mean, you're talking about 2 totally different styles of offense. I think that there's a real situation that Indiana looks kind of like the Celtics are right now against the Knicks, because the Knicks are a bruiser, can move at a slower pace, make you feel them every single time you're playing against them. And you see how that's negatively affected the Boston Celtics. Mm-hmm. For that reason, but more importantly, because Jason Tatum has a blown Achilles, I think you root for Boston to rise from the ashes here, make that series go 7, and then take your rest, your PTO that you've earned after a 5-game series. With Boston's 7-game series they just went to war with against New York, and no Tatum, I'll take that option.
Yeah, I agree, because the Knicks are playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're another team that's super confident. Boston is missing Jason Tatum. Kristaps Porzingis can't stay healthy, whether that's injuries or illness, and just hasn't been that guy that they thought he was going to be in Boston in the playoffs this year. But you got, again, the Knicks playing confident with a chip on their shoulder. Josh Hart's face exploded last night, and he still came out and played hard. And, that Knicks team is dangerous. And it would be like what was that, like 94, 95 when the Reggie Miller and the Pacers faced off in the Knicks in the playoffs? Like it's 1995 and they want their Eastern Conference final back.
It'd be cool.
Yeah,
it would be cool. I'm not going to besmirch the Indiana Pacers being in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm not going to besmirch them being in the NBA Finals, and I'm never going to say that it's bad for the NBA, because I don't care about ratings and markets. Like, Indiana is fun. Indiana is a ton of fun, and honestly, seeing them against the Knicks and Brunson is poetic for me, because styles make fights. They're different. I'd be on board for 7 games of that for sure.
Agreed. And then they would face the winner of the Timberwolves, who would be facing either the Nuggets or the Thunder, who play tonight. Thunder can close the door out tonight. If not, we get game 7 on Sunday afternoon. I think this has been an absolute war between the Nuggets and the Thunder. And so the T-Wolves getting a little bit of rest might be able to snatch a game 1 early from one of these teams, because they get some of that much earned downtime with closing out Golden State. And so, Drew, I ask you again, I kind of gave my opinion earlier. If you're the T-Wolves, I feel like you naturally would rather face the Nuggets. They're not as deep. They play your style more. Is that kind of what you're thinking as well, or do you think this T-Wolves would have a shot against the Thunder?
I think that I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm so torn on this because obviously I want Denver, of the 3 Western Conference teams, to make a run. I can't quite get there with Denver yet. Like, I've underestimated them all postseason long. I expected them to get run out by the Clippers and, egg on my face for believing in James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, I guess. But then
mostly James Harden.
Yeah, I expected OKC to kind of run through them, but OKC's young and they haven't been. This is only their second time ever in a second round of the playoffs, and you're going up against a 3-time MVP and a world champion, and that's kind of shown. But when it comes to Minnesota, like, I still just kind of think you want to take care of you. You just want Denver. I think one. You beat Denver. Denver was the defending champions last season in the playoffs, and Minnesota knocked them off in a big upset to get to the Western Conference Finals.
Exactly.
Minnesota knocked off Denver. So I guess if you're Minnesota, you want them, but there's no cupcake left, obviously.
Yeah, agreed. Like, either of these teams are going to be a slouch. You got experience and a guy named Nikola Jokic, who's one of the best basketball players on the planet, or you face a team that only lost 14 times in 82 tries this year, who play amazing defense, super athletic, and can bury you in a heartbeat. Because, like, with Denver, you're going to be in a bar fight, right? It's just going to be a slugfest, back and forth, punching. With Oklahoma City, if you don't counter and parry, they can put 18, 20 points on you in a hurry, because they've got SGA who can get to the rim. He's got great kick-out options, and Jalen Williams or Aaron Wiggins, who just seem like they never, ever miss. Right. And then you've got Hartenstein, who's one of the best tap-out rebounders in the NBA, who can clean up messes. And so Oklahoma City can bite you in a hurry. You can't sleep on them at all.
Crazy.
Oh, my God.
I don't know where I sat with it. I really wanted Denver to get game 5, so they had game 6 at home to clinch. But that was a classic on, I guess that was Tuesday night. It was an absolute classic. But it didn't go Denver's way. So now you go home in a must-win, and you like to be in a must-win game at your home court.
Sure.
So go out there. Jokic has been absolutely outstanding, like otherworldly. Like, I don't understand how he does it still. It's just mind-blowing.
And some of the shots that he makes, man, just look just absolutely outrageous and egregious, and they still find a way to go in. They need to go back. It was game 4 where they won to tie it up 2-2. They had figured out a bit of a recipe where they were leaning into Oklahoma City's physicality and attacking them, forcing the refs to call some of that more physical defense, and they spent a lot of time at the free throw line. It was an abysmal game to try and watch, but that's how you can get to Oklahoma City. You get them in foul trouble because they are very physical. They are big on hand checks. Caruso and Jalen Williams grab people all the time. Right. And so playing into that is how you can get some momentum, get the crowd involved, and get out ahead of Oklahoma City tonight in order to push this thing to game 7, which a game 7 in Oklahoma City will be absolutely electric.
Yeah. I hate game 7s in the middle of the day too. I feel like that happens a lot. Yeah. Where you've got like an afternoon game 7. Like, nah, get that 7 o'clock. Let the home crowd get a little drunk. Let's get a little rowdy. Yeah. We'll get ready to throw down. Somebody's going home tonight. So
that's it.
I like seeing those in prime time. I don't like those at like 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon.
Agreed. And so, Drew, they're going to run it back tonight. And speaking of running it back, I don't know who we need to talk to get these guys to leave our team alone. Of course, I'm talking about Run It Back on the FanDuel Network with Michelle Beadle, Lou Williams, and he who shall not be named in Memphis basketball, Chandler Parsons, who get our young players on there and try and get them in gotcha moments. They had Scottie Pippen Jr., and they're asking him about Ja's unavailability and sitting out games. They asked Jalen Williams about trading Ja Morant. Jalen Wells, about trading Ja Morant. And would you trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo? And he handled it professionally, and so did Scottie. But then they got Gigi. And Gigi, we all know Gigi just says whatever's at the forefront of his mind. And they got him talking about pigeons and hunting out guys on defense, being Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, and I forget the other one that he named. And it's just like,
oh, he said Isaiah Joe.
Isaiah Joe. That's who it was. Like, bro,
yeah.
What are you doing, first of all? And second of all, when is somebody in our PR department going to snatch these dudes up and say, stop doing this lame show?
Well, if you ask certain people on this network, the Grizzlies PR department doesn't like granting player interviews anyways. So it seems like they've circumvented, and they've kind of, listen, these players are their own brand at this point. You can't really stop them. And honestly, I don't mind it. Gigi's maybe the wrong guy to do it because he's a happy-go-lucky guy, but I always ride for the guys who are like, real. Be real about it. Like, there's so much tongue in cheek, so much hidden behind closed doors that's not talked about. You've got to read between the lines with all of the faces of the NBA. Like, LeBron says a lot with saying very little, and Steph Curry doesn't have a personality behind a microphone. Like, there's just so much blah when it comes to media presence unless you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
So
and then you got Gigi, who's a kid. Gigi's a kid, and he's going to say kid things.
Should he have like listed out who was targeted on each team? Probably not, because it's going to, players look for reasons to kind of for bulletin board material.
Exactly.
But Gigi Jackson and the Memphis Grizzlies, this was not a novel concept that you hunt Steph Curry. Like, everybody knows that.
And same with Nikola Jokic. You go at him to make him tired and get him off his offensive game. But when you are one of the guys that other teams are going to hunt out exclusively as well, you got to be careful with what you say, because you now have a target on your back that tells me guys are going to be hunting you again next year.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me that much. It bothers me more that it comes from Chandler Parsons' mouth.
Yeah.
Because I just don't trust a single thing that, like, he openly and actively hates Memphis and Grizzlies fans, and maybe rightfully so based on his experience here as a Memphis Grizzly. It was very poor, and we let him know about it. You know,
absolutely.
like,
and still
everybody hates each other. And so I don't like it coming from him, because I do think it comes from a not honest question point. It comes from a trying to find a way to bash on the Grizzlies. So I don't really trust Chandler Parsons asking the question, but like, I don't have a problem. I've never had a problem with players speaking. Honestly, I find it refreshing, and just go out there and say your piece and back it up. And you know that players are going to look for bulletin board material. You know that Steph Curry saw that and was like, okay, well, I'm going to go with Gigi. Well, you know what? Like, that's fine. That's fine. I enjoy hearing honest basketball conversation. Like, I wish I was a fly on the wall when they were putting together that scouting report, because I eat that stuff up, and you just never hear it from anybody in the NBA.
And there's a reason for that. And I don't disagree. I like the honesty, but like, just be mindful of what you're saying when you're coming off of a bad season, and especially on a goofy podcast like that. Like, I just like, because they're all about trying to get Grizzly players in gotcha moments. And so I'm over it. I'm over that show. It's just weird.
It is weird that show in particular, and it may be that's the only ones they can grab, like, can get. But they've gone for like the two youngest players on the team.
And Scottie Pippen Jr.
And Scottie Pippen Jr., who, I mean, played his first full season in an NBA uniform this year.
Yeah.
So I just, listen, I have a problem with them more than I have the problem with the question or the answer from Gigi.
Agreed. I have much more of an issue with the show and where it is. So, but
Lou Williams needs to get another gig, because he's funny, but Michelle Beadle and Chandler just have always rubbed me the wrong way.
They're just potatoes. Like, they suck. Neither of them are good. Beadle shouldn't even have a job after some of the stuff that she has said over the years. Parsons is a bum. Like, I'm just over that whole entire cast. And Lou Williams loves to claim Memphis. Lou Williams loves to claim Memphis, but he lived here for like 15 minutes and got out of here as quick as he could, and has bashed on Memphis. Nothing but bashed on Memphis since he left.
And if Chandler Parsons was ugly, like, you would never know he existed.
No, you're absolutely right. And he is. He's ugly on the inside, where my mama says it counts. But that's enough talking about those bums anyway. We got some football to cover before we talk again.
Yeah. So before we talk again, like I said, it's Thursday. We're the $2. We're on Bluff City Media. Come over, check us out, like our Twitter page, like Bluff City Media's Twitter page, like the channel, like and subscribe, turn that bell on so that you know every single time that Bluff City Media goes live. This is our Twitter handle.
All of us, because we're putting out clips, we're putting out more notifications. We're letting you know who we are on at the $2, both on Instagram and on Twitter. Come hang out with us. If you don't follow us on all social media platforms.
Yeah.
Drew, I've got two football topics I want to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Got 2 football topics I want to cover. One of them you know about. The other one I'm going to throw in front of you is one I sent in our group chat that I want to talk about. In the calendar year, in the fiscal year 2024, SEC athletic departments had a line item in their P&L where they had to pay out severances to fired head coaches. And I thought this was fascinating. Alabama is at the bottom, paying less than, like peanuts comparatively, right?
Right.
But the number one team in the SEC paying severance pay is Texas A&M, where they are paying north of $30 million in buyouts to coaches that they have fired or let go, which is a wild stat. The next closest for reference is Auburn, who is just above 10 million. Texas is about 7 million, and then Mississippi State is right at 5 million in buyouts.
Yeah. And to make matters worse, like, money isn't the same. Like, our spending money isn't the same as Texas A&M, because that old money, they'll throw that stuff around. Like, they're not missing it at all. You know, they paid $60 million, something like that, to get off of Jimbo Fisher's contract. And then
I think it was more than that,
or maybe 90. I don't know.
I think it was 90 million, $95 million buy. It was like historic what they had to do, and they wanted to fire him a year before, but it would have been north of 100 million or right around 100 million. So they weren't going to do that. So they waited until it was 90 million to buy him out.
Yeah, but I mean, he had many years of like making $10 million a year. So you fire him, and then what makes it even worse for schools like A&M is that your coaches the coaches that are there, that you're unhappy, you spend $100 million to fire them, and then the coaches that you hired don't even really want to be there either. Like, they settled for Mike Elko to replace Jimbo, which was like their 7th option for football coach, and then their basketball coach just left to take a job at Maryland, and their baseball coach just left to take a job at Texas, their biggest rival. And so, like, they're paying all these massive amount of monies to fix bad hires they've made, and then they can't even replace them with good coaches. Like, it's wild.
I love it. It couldn't happen to a better school organization. Like, it couldn't happen to a better group. That's just when I sent that to our fantasy football group chat earlier today, because it just blew my mind. Like, I knew that was the case, but they put it in a nice little bar graph to where you can truly see the disparity. And I just like slack jaw was just like, oh my God, that's over $30 million. It
definitely makes a huge difference when you can see a visual behind this. Like, we've all known how much money they pay for buyouts, but to see it comparatively speaking, because you said, who is number 2 on that list? Auburn? Yeah. So whose buyout is that? That's Gus Malzahn's buyout. I mean, not Gus Malzahn. What was his name?
Brian Harsin.
Start with it.
Yeah, Harsin.
Yeah, that's Brian Harsin's buyout. And the next one
Texas, which is going to be some baseball, and it's going to be some.
They just that was last year. So
their basketball coach, I think it's
Mike Price, their baseball coach. They just fired Rodney Terry, their basketball coach, but that would have been a 2025, not 2024. So
so this is going to be Price, and then Mississippi State's paying Arnett, and and so I mean, like, you've got these schools that are paying like a little bit of buyouts. Coach O's probably still getting paid by LSU. Like, I want to be a fired SEC football coach when I grow up, because that's the best gig in the world. Like, they're paying Jimbo Fisher millions upon millions of dollars to sit at the house. Like, that dude ain't doing nothing but playing golf and going out on his boat, and that's it, man. And so we
haven't seen Jimbo in a while. He's probably 400 pounds.
I mean, I would be eating bonbons, and I'd be eating like whatever I wanted, because I'm making $30 million to sit at the house. Like, you're paying me to watch you lose to Mississippi State.
A fired SEC head coach is definitely the best job you can have.
But we did get some professional football news this week, Drew. The NFL schedules were released, and they usually do these as a great little video segment. The Tennessee Titans will forever live in the greatest lore where they had people on Broad Street who were not
Broadway,
NFL, Broad Avenue. They were not NFL fans asking them
guess the logo.
Or guess the logo, and it made for classic TV. And this year, there was some really good ones, including the Indianapolis Colts, who put out a Minecraft Roblox type thing. And for the Miami Dolphins game, they had a clip of a dolphin wearing a number 10 helmet getting pulled over and arrested by a Coast Guard boat. Shout out Tyreek Hill, who thought it was hilarious on Twitter, but the Colts unfortunately caved to pressure and took it down. It was an amazing video.
Yeah, the schedule releases has gone really well lately. The Titans, who I always look for the Titans because of that guess the logo video that they did on Broadway a couple years ago, which was amazing.
Yeah.
They did one where they simulated like a medicine commercial.
Yes.
A pharmaceutical drug commercial called Schedule Rizzy or whatever.
Yeah, Schedule is so good.
Listed the side effects as the teams they were playing.
The team.
I will say there was one that I saw the headline and I was like, this is going to be amazing. And it was the Buffalo Bills. I sent it in our fans. Did you watch it?
No, I haven't yet, but I know they had Josh Allen and all that.
I'm going to spoil it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was Ask AI to announce our football schedule. So it's got Brandon Bean on a computer or whatever. And he's talking to Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's like, I don't know, just ask AI. So then it cuts to Brandon Bean on his laptop and he's talking to somebody on, you can tell it's a video chat or whatever. And he was like, Josh Allen told me to ask you to do our schedule release. And it cuts over and it's Allen Iverson. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
It's amazing.
Awesome. And it's the worst payoff ever because Allen Iverson obviously looks clueless. And I thought this was part of the bit or whatever. And then it cuts to him and he's like, yeah, you wanted AI to release your schedule. And he holds up a piece of 8.5 by 11 printer paper with the schedule. And he was like, here it is. They didn't pause it, zoom in, nothing. It's like he was holding it back like this. You can't even read the schedule. He's just like, all right, you ask AI, here it is. And he just sets it down. And they're like, Brandon, comes back to Brandon Bean. Hey, can I get you to say go Bills, please, Allen? And he's like, go Bills. Like, it's the worst payoff ever.
That's
like
hilarious.
I was so excited. Like, ask Allen Iverson. Like, that's awesome.
Hilarious.
It's a great idea. Allen Iverson did not commit to the bit at all.
My favorite, I love the Titans. As a Titans fan, I love that. But my favorite, and it involved one of my favorite Twitter accounts of all time, X accounts, is the Atlanta Falcons partnered with Art But Make It Sports.
Oh, really?
And they did a tweet for each one where it was some Falcons players, and then Art But Make the Sports But Make It Art puts a picture in, like just like he does with all the moments of Falcons players. 10 out of 10. It's a very niche. So if you know that account, like it's not as flashy as some of the other ones, but as somebody who loves, like anytime a big moment happens, I immediately go to their page. I loved it because it's so good. That guy never misses on that account.
Another one that I watched that drew my attention immediately was, and it's kind of like a Twitter thing lately because she had a TV show where she played like a assistant in an NBA front office, and everybody's always impressed. Hashtag right? Brenda knows ball. Talking about Brenda's song. And it hits home for me because I was a Disney Channel kid and Brenda's song was like number one, I don't know if you ever watched like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, or she was in the
a little past my time.
Yeah. But like she was always just a stone cold fox for us, like in our early 30s right now. And so and it's fascinating now, like as an adult, she's like an actual ball knower. Like she loves the Lakers, all the Los Angeles teams, and she's like in the weeds, like a fan on message boards. Like it's crazy. But they had her announce it. And she did it like a Sports Center anchor almost, where she had some kind of witty one line for every team. It was funny.
I saw Brenda's song and I was like, that means nothing to me, so I didn't look at it.
It was actually good. It was actually good.
I'll check it out. So the 2025 schedule has been released, and in order of hardest to easiest schedule, The New York Giants have the hardest schedule, followed by the Bears, Lions, Eagles, Cowboys. Those are your top 5 hardest schedules.
I saw a totally different list for that.
Oh, hang on.
Are you thinking
No,
of
this
first so many games?
No, this is from BR Gridiron an hour ago. Schedule release, strength of schedule 2025. Opponent. This is based on opponent win percentage from last year.
Yeah, I saw that same.
New York
list.
Giants are
totally
0.754. Chicago Bears 0.571. This is according to Caesars Sportsbook. Detroit Lions 0.571. Then if you go to the other end, the easiest schedules in order from easiest. I started with the hardest. These are the most, No, the easiest is the San Francisco 49ers is 0.415. New Orleans Saints 0.419. Patriots, Titans, Panthers. So Cam Ward comes in to the Titans with a 0.45 winning percentage of opponents from last year, the 4th easiest schedule in the NFL, and 0 primetime games. They released a Monday Night Football schedule. The Tennessee Titans do not have a single one. We have 2 Chicago Bear games, getting to see Caleb Williams in primetime. And I was kind of surprised that there was no Cleveland Brown games on Monday Night Football to showcase the new look Browns. But I'm going to pull up the Monday night schedule. What do you think about your Saints having one of the easiest schedules for next year?
They're going to make it look extremely difficult.
I'm afraid the Titans will too.
There were 3 teams that had no primetime games. It was Cleveland, the New Orleans Saints, and the Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee Titans
have no primetime games. And honestly, can't blame the NFL one bit.
No.
At least you can what are we looking for? What are we wanting to market out of these primetime games? If you take it from the Cleveland's perspective, the camera's going to be on Shedeur Sanders as the third string third string quarterback. We're going to be watching that all game pass. The New Orleans Saints, who knows what? There's going to be nothing fun about that team outside of Alvin Kamara. And if he's lucky, he's just going to get traded because you're starting either Jake Haener or the other 28-year-old rookie out of Louisville. Yeah. And then the Titans, you got Cam Ward. So I would think that would count for something. Number 1 pick. But
we're not going to be good outside of that. That's the thing. He ain't got nobody to throw the ball to. But there are some intriguing games. Week 1 is the Vikings and the Bears. You get the Vikings coming off one of their better seasons in a long time. Caleb Williams in week 1.
Did not start off with a game that really sells me there.
Right. Week 3, Detroit goes to Baltimore on Monday Night Football. Should be a good game. Where was the other one I saw?
Week 1 is Philly Cowboys too.
That's the opening game.
Yeah.
You've got week 8, the Washington Commanders travel to Kansas City. Intriguing game. Then there was one other one that stood out. I guess that's it. Actually, those are the only ones that really jump out to me. The last game of the year, they have the last Monday night. It's TBD. It's a doubleheader. Those will kind of be based on how the season goes. King Meeks in the comments.
First Monday Night Football game.
The first Monday Night Football game is the Vikings and the Bears.
Okay, that one is the Monday night. That kind of stinks. First game.
That's the first. The next week is the Bucks at the Texans and the Chargers at the Raiders. And none of those are exciting. It takes to week 3 that gets me a game where I'm like, you know what? That Detroit at Baltimore game works.
Yeah.
Week 4, you got Cincinnati going to Denver. Denver's kind of a darling team that people are going to say are going to be better this year.
I'm in for that one.
Yeah, I like that. Their defense is good. They've got the young Bo Nix is leading that offense. I'm in for that one. But as far as 2 juggernauts, you've got week 3 and then week 8 from last year where you had the Commanders made that good run against the Chiefs. They're the only 2 that are big contenders in my opinion.
Yeah. Listen, the NFL season, it's king for a reason. It absolutely is.
No doubt.
They're going to have an amazing product. I can't wait for fantasy football to start back. Can't wait for college football to start back. We got a lot on the corner. We're entering the doldrums here, though. We're going to continue with the NBA until the NBA is over. And thankfully, by the time the NBA is over, you're talking about the middle of June to Labor Day when college football, the window's shrinking. That's the time we need you guys to bear with us and engage with us because we're going to be looking for all kinds of off-the-wall content.
It's some big, exciting changes coming this summer for the 2 Bucks Sports Show, so hang around for that. Drew, you doing anything fun this weekend?
I think I'm going to go watch the Rebs play their last home baseball game of the season. They've got Auburn. I have not been to one all year. We had season tickets 2 2 previous years, and 22 and 23 and 24. So 3 previous years. I did not get them this time. My dad still has them, and they've got something going on Saturday. So I think I'm going to take BB. We're going to go watch an Ole Miss baseball game on Saturday, and hopefully just chill out past that. What about you?
Nice. So we're doing a work party tomorrow night at the Redbirds game downtown Memphis. If you've never been to a Redbird game, they're a ton of fun. Great little minor league ballpark stadium downtown. It's supposed to be raining its tail off, so I hope that passes and we can go watch the game. And then Saturday, I got a surprise phone call on last night, or night before. It's Tuesday night. I'm sitting at Maggie's, and my mama calls me, and she says, "Hey, I hadn't come over and seen your new house or seen you in Memphis yet. So I'm going to be at your house about 9 o'clock on Saturday. So we're going to go do brunch. They're doing a really cool arts festival downtown at Grind City Brewing. So we're going to go to that, maybe hit up a farmer's market or two. And me and Mama Lee are just going to hang out on Saturday. So she's coming to see me here in Memphis.
What's the name of the breakfast joint that me and Haley went to that time that was just absolutely amazing? Sunrise.
That's where we're going. We're planning on either. I'm going to give her a choice of Sunrise, or there's a place called the Liquor Store. Sunrise is your traditional Southern grits and
it was so good.
And then Liquor Store is more of like a Hispanic influence take on breakfast tacos or whatever. So whichever one Mama Lee wants, that's where we're going to go. But Sunrise is a solid choice. Shout out, no free shout outs.
Yeah, that's the last time we'll say your name until you pay for it.
Sponsor us. But speaking of paying for it, Drew, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate y'all being here as always on Tuesdays and Thursdays with us. You might see more of us this summer, to be determined. ... Little foreshadowing there. But Drew, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Yeah,
to be announced.
To be announced. Well, TBD is to be announced. Whatever. Listen, they don't pay me the big bucks to be smart on here. They just pay me to talk, and they don't pay me much anyway. Thanks for being here with us today. Go be a friend of somebody who needs a friend. And Drew, there are no refunds for what you heard today on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.